Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the companion, Djinn. So companions were reworked about 3 months ago, and that's why we've been going through a lot of the companions in the game. And we're going to continue to go through the companions in the game until we're done with all of them. I think after Djinn today we have just a few more sentinels and then we're done. We have the top commenter of the last video, Kishan2101, and the first commenter of the last video, Yogev1989. Then we have our recent supporters of Johnny, Eddie, and Lovio. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, let's go into the Djinn here. So anytime you're picking a pet for your Warframe build, you always have to ask, well, what does this pet provide for me? What does he do? What is his niche? And for the Djinn, he has an extremely quick recovery time. And in fact, it can be instant. So what he provides is consistency. A lot of pets, when they go down, and they will go down, especially if you're doing endurance content, if you're using Prime Regen, you still have to wait 25 seconds. And that's 25 seconds of not having, buffs or whatever that pet does, if he's spreading statuses and things like that. Well, with the Djinn, you don't have that. So he provides consistency to builds. So let's go into the Djinn build here, and I'm going to go over the 3 specific Djinn mods. So we're going to have Fatal Attraction, Reawaken, and Thumper. Now we'll go over Thumper first. This is the most simple one. Djinn will attack the first visible enemy within 60 meters. This is basically assault mode, but it's Djinn's specific assault mode. So assault mode is normally 30 meters. This is 60 meters. So you get double the range. Kind of nice. It also doesn't stack with assault mode. So, you can either use assault mode with 30 range or Thumper with 60. For me, it's an easy choice there. Okay, let's go over Reawaken. Energy orbs reduce Sentinel recovery timer by 6 seconds. Djinn recovers with 300 overshields per energy orb collected. And Djinn's max overshields are also increased by 900. So when he goes down, when he comes back up, depending on how many energy orbs you pick up, he's going to get a big boost of overshields. Now, let's look at this in combination with Primed Regen. So Primed Regen, what this does is it knocks your recovery from 60 seconds, which is the normal recovery, down to 25 seconds. And when he revives with 10 seconds of invulnerability. Now you mix that with Reawaken, where now, those energy orbs, they reduce it by 6 seconds, but they're not reducing it from 6 seconds, like from his normal base of 60 recovery time. It's 6 seconds from like the 25 seconds of recovery time that Prime Regen gets you on. So it's much easier with this combo to have like instant revives. And with Primed Regen, he's also reviving with 10 seconds of invulnerability, so he gets to keep those overshields capped out for a longer period of time, which is going to be important when we go over other things on the build. So let me put Primed Regen back on, and let me put Reawaken back on, because Reawaken is on the build. Okay, and then finally we're going to go over Fatal Attraction. It's a little bit of a weird one here. So enemies within 20 meters are drawn to you. Once they are within 6 meters, they detonate for 250 damage. Kill them before detonation to increase lure time and reduce cooldown. All right, so there's a few issues with Fatal Attraction. One of the biggest issues is that it has a long cooldown. It's a 30-second cooldown. And the actual lure duration is only 5 seconds. So it's a 5-second lure duration with a 30-second cooldown, which is kind of crappy. So the only way to make this usable is if you mix it with Manifold Bond, which would decrease the cooldown of this. But unfortunately, then you're kind of like doing a 2-mod combo to do one effect, which is still kind of like meh, not really needed. So the 5-second lure, what does it do? The enemies put their weapons down and they just kind of slowly walk towards you. So you can kind of look at it as a crowd control. It's an okay crowd control, but it's only 5 seconds is the thing. And once they are within a certain range of you, there has to be a certain amount of enemies in that range, and then it will decide if it's going to do the explosion part of it. And the explosion is actually a corrosive proc, which is actually better than a blast proc, especially when you're talking about endurance, because a flat 250 damage doesn't scale very well into crazy endurance. But so one corrosive proc is better than one blast proc if you're talking about flat set damage. So yeah, Fatal Attraction is just, it's very clunky, and also to make it be a more consistent crowd control, you need to mix it with Manifold Bond. And so now it's a 2-mod combo to give you a kind of a clunky crowd control. So for that reason, Fatal Attraction does not make it on this particular build. It will be on the second build. We have 2 builds today here. It could make it on this first build if you really wanted to, because we do have 1 flex slot. And if you remember all the other videos that we've done, Synth Deconstruct can be a flex slot if you're not using Equilibrium. So, you know, you would have 2 mods open to do like the Fatal Attraction and Manifold Bond combo. I just think that using 2 mod slots for kind of a clunky crowd control is a little bit subpar, but it is an option. Alrighty. So I think we can go into the mods now. And the first thing you'll probably notice is that, especially if you watch the other videos that I've done, most of the builds have 2 survivability mods. This one is going to have 1 survivability mod. And it's important that you only use this 1 survivability mod, Calculated Redirection. And I'm going to skip a little bit ahead to explain why. So we're going to go back to the Reawaken that we talked about before. And then we're going to also talk with Reawaken about Reinforced Bond. So let's read Reinforced Bond here. If the companion exceeds 1200 max shields or overshields, then your fire rate is increased by 60%. And it has the other like nice little effect, but whatever. It's just reloading, restores 150 overshields. All right, cool. But the top part of it is that your companion, to actually activate Reinforced Bond, he has to have 1200 shields. Okay, let's look at the Djinn. 875. He has less than 1200, and that's even with Calculated Redirection. So the only way he gets over 1200 is when he gets the overshields from Reawaken. And so you unfortunately need to do a 2-mod combo, and actually it's going to be a 3-mod combo, with Reawaken, Reinforced Bond, and Primed Regen. Because Reawaken will give him a large amount of overshields when he comes back to life, so he needs to die. That's an important part about this build. He needs to die, and that's why we don't go crazy with survivability mods. We only have Calculated Redirection to increase the max shields to get him closer to that 1200. So when he comes back to life, he has a bunch of overshields. Primed Regen gives him 10 seconds of invulnerability. On testing, the amount of overshields is usually about like a little bit over 2,000. I don't know if it can go past that, but like almost every time it was like 2,100, 2,200 for me. So, but with Primed Regen, he comes back with 10 seconds of invulnerability, so those overshields can't get touched at that time. And then when they eventually can get touched, like he still has an okay amount to take a couple of hits before Reinforced Bond no longer works. Then he'll go down again, and then he'll hopefully be insta-revived with more overshields. So that's how the Djinn works, is that he needs to die, and he needs to die somewhat often to keep the large amount of overshields going. That way Reinforced Bond actually works. So it's kind of a combo between Primed Regen, or Regen if you don't have the Primed version, Reawaken, and Reinforced Bond. Okay. And that's why we use Calculated Redirection here. It gets him a little bit closer to that 1200. You probably could also run without Calculated Redirection, and the amount of overshields you would get from Reawaken would probably be like almost exactly 1200 or just a little bit over 1200. I just don't like that. I like a little bit more buffer to be a bit over, so I do like Calculated Redirection. Okay, this mod right here is a flex slot. We'll go over this at the very end. Synth Deconstruct. Enemies injured by the companion have a 25% chance to drop a health orb when killed. This combos incredibly well with the Warframe mod Equilibrium, and it also is useful if you just need extra health on your Warframe. Now, if neither of those two things are true for you, if you're not using Equilibrium or you don't need extra health, you can consider Synth Deconstruct a flex slot, and then you would have, 2 free mod slots. And again, I'll go over possible options for these slots. Reawaken, we already went over. Reinforced Bond, we already went over. We're going to go for Contagious Bond here. When your companion kills an enemy afflicted with a status effect, 50% of the status effect spreads to other enemies within 9 meters, max 100 stacks. This is an incredibly powerful status spreader and killer, honestly. I was doing testing this morning, and I was trying to make... I was trying to see like how often Fatal Attraction would proc and what it looked like and everything. And he was just killing all kinds of crazy stuff with Contagious Bond. There was like dudes running around with like 1,200 stacks of heat. Because it can only convert 100 sacks, but that's per dude. So if multiple dudes are like dying in a row, you'll have like these guys running around with over 1,000 stacks of heat procs. It's crazy. Okay, duplex bond. Companion will clone itself each time you expend 100 energy, up to 3 clones. Clones live 30 seconds. They can't use abilities, but their kills have a 50% chance of dropping an energy orb. So duplex bond and contagious bond are amazing status spreaders and killers, because now you get 3 clones who also have the weapon that you're using, which probably should be the Vergless Prime, because it is the most powerful Sentinel weapon right now. And yeah, they're just going to be putting a ridiculous amount of heat procs and killing everything. So these 2 mods require kills, though. Just keep that in mind. Contagious Bond requires kills. Duplex Bond requires kills. And so you really need to be using a Sentinel weapon that kills. And so I would suggest the Vergless or the Vergless Prime. There are some other Sentinel weapons that are decent at killing, too. Just make sure it's actually killing things. Make sure it's not just like a little pea shooter, you know, dinky, puts like 1 or 2 procs and that's all it does kind of thing. Like, don't make sure it's not that. It has to actually kill things. Okay, Prime Regen we went over. Thumper we went over. And then finally Vacuum. Vacuum is going to scoop your loot up for you. Alrighty. So let's go over what could be in this last slot here. Obviously, the first thing I said was Fatal Attraction plus Manifold Bond, because Fatal Attraction by itself is really weak. You kind of need something else to reduce that cooldown. So I wouldn't suggest just Fatal Attraction. I would suggest Fatal Attraction and Manifold Bond if you didn't need Synth Deconstruct. All right, something else that could go here would be Mystic Bond. This is just always good for a flex slot, Mystic Bond. After your companion uses abilities with cooldowns 5 times, you may cast a Warframe ability without expending energy. It's kind of nice. Now, this could get you killed if you're a Shield Gator, so if you're a Shield Gator, don't use Mystic Bond. But any other kind of a Warframe can use Mystic Bond pretty easily and get good value out of it. Fired Up is pretty much like directly associated with the Vergless. I mean, I guess there probably are some other Sentinel weapons that maybe Fired Up would be good too. But what this would do is that it's going to increase your heat weighting on the Vergless. This is good if your Vergless is heat viral. If you're not heat viral and you're just heat, then you don't really need Fired Up. But if you're heat viral, this could increase the heat weighting on your Vergless. So Fired Up is okay. It's an okay mod. Next one here is Guardian. Guardian is always top tier. If you don't know what to put here, definitely put Guardian. Guardian is super friggin' top tier. This boosts your shields by 100% when it runs out. Obviously, if you're playing Inaros or Nidus, you may not want to use Guardian because they don't have shields. But, you know, anyone else, this is super, super powerful. Shield Charger is another pretty powerful option. I think Guardian is better than Shield Charger, but Shield Charger, like maybe you had 2 slots free, like maybe you didn't use the Deconstruct and you didn't want to use the Fatal Attraction Manifold Bond combo, like you might want to use like Guardian plus Shield Charger would be really good too. So increases Warframe max shields and shield regeneration by 60% for 10 seconds. It's really good. Alrighty, let's go over another option. Well, this is a fun option, this one I have here. Self-Destruct. I don't think this is a great option, but if there was any pet that was going to use Self-Destruct, it could be Djinn. So explodes when incapacitated, dealing 600 blast damage in an 18-meter radius and knocking down nearby enemies. All right, like we were saying though, set damage is not necessarily good for Steel Path Endurance because like 600 damage on like level, 1,000 enemies is not going to do anything. So you're actually using Self-Destruct more for the crowd control effect. An 18-meter knockdown when he goes down, that's okay. It's an okay crowd control effect. It is only going to happen when he goes down. Djinn is going to go down pretty often, though, because you're kind of building him to do that. I think this is a weaker option, but I just kind of wanted to point it out because like this could be the one case where Self-Destruct is actually pretty decent. Animal Instincts is the last one. Animal Instincts. I love Animal Instincts, and I know a lot of other people like Animal Instincts. There are some people that don't like it, though. But if you like Prime Animal Instincts, then bam, you got a slot right there for it. Just keep in mind, the polarities. So that is how you build out the Djinn. If you're going to go for the Contagious Bond, Duplex Bond, like killing route using Thumper, Contagious Bond, Duplex Bond, and Synth Deconstruct. Now we're going to go into the no thumper build, or the no assault mode build. And we're going to check this one out. Oh, actually, sorry. I'm going to go back real quick. I'm sorry. I belay what I just said. There is one other mod that should go in this slot, but it's a very specific use case. Tenacious Bond. So again, the whole reason you're using Djinn is because he is a pet that comes up like instantly from death, and so you have 100% uptime on everything. Well, with Tenacious Bond, you get a 1.2 crit damage multiplier on your Warframe weapons from a mod that's on your pet, which is incredibly powerful. The condition for activating Tenacious Bond is that your Sentinel weapon needs to have a critical chance of over 50%. Now, unfortunately, one of the most powerful Sentinel weapons, and the one that I'm actually suggesting for you to use on this build, which is either the Verglas or the Verglas Prime, can't get over 50% critical chance unless you have a Riven. It needs the critical chance mod and a Riven with critical chance, and then it could get over 50% critical chance, and then you could use Tenacious Bond. So just keep that in mind. Tenacious Bond is probably the strongest option for the slot, but it really requires a Riven for the Verglas. There are other Sentinel weapons that can get to over 50% critical chance without a Riven, but they're a lot weaker. They don't kill as well. And so this combo right here is not as good with those kind of weapons. I'm going to cough real quick. I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah, Tenacious Bond is the final option and probably the best option. It just unfortunately requires a Riven. Okay, so now we'll go into the no assault mode or no thumper build. So we keep on calculated redirection. We're going to use Tenacious Bond because this build doesn't actually require you to be killing things. And so you can use a crappy Sentinel weapon that easily gets over 50% critical chance. And now Tenacious Bond works easily. So for the no assault mode or no thumper build, then Tenacious Bond is an easy pick here. We have a free slot here. We have a free slot underneath it as well. We're going to use Reawaken and Reinforced Bond because that combo is still really powerful with Primed Regen. Vacuum, of course, always stays on. And that leaves us 4 slots that we don't really know what the hell to do with here. And so you can easily go Fatal Attraction and Manifold Bond because like we have 4 slots to mess around with. And then with these other 2 empty mod slots, you can basically pick any of the flex mods that I went over for config A here. Okay, you could go maybe like Guardian and Shield Charge. That could be pretty good. Fatal Attraction and Manifold Bond aren't necessary, though. If you really think... Because this is like a clunky... This is such a clunky mod. Like you could try this out, but if you feel like it's not really doing too much, it's kind of clunky, you could take these off too, and then you would have 4 mod slots to use any of those flex mods that I went over in config A. So this is the reason why I think config A is so much more powerful than config B, is because you have too many dead slots in config B where there's not really great things to go here. You know, the only things we're putting here are like the flex mods that don't even make it on the build for config A. So config B is still viable though, because it allows for an easier use of Tenacious Bond with just like a weaker Sentinel weapon. I just feel like I feel like this config right here is the more powerful way to use this. All right. So that is Djinn. That's how you build him out. He's a cool little guy. I think he has a pretty cool use case to him. That he's just more consistent on his uptime. I think it's decent. I don't think it's in like a... I don't know if he's going to beat like the use cases for the Panzervault Defiler or anything like that, because, you know, those guys are really OP. But there might be a lot of people that just want consistency out of their pets, and he provides that. All right, so that is the Djinn. That's him done and over with. If you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.